Every kid in the orphanage had the same dream. One day, their real parents would show up, grab their hand like in those drama scenes, and say, "You don't belong in this dump," before whisking them away to some fancy house with snacks that aren't shared between 12 people. Well, one girl actually got that dream. Lucky, right? Her new family even had a dog that didn't bite and a fridge that made ice on its own. Life was great, until 4 months ago, when a girl walked in like she owned the place and said, "Hi, I'm Hannah Song, the real daughter." According to the doctor, the orphanage made a little mix-up 9 years ago. Like, oops, wrong child. But instead of swapping lunches, they swapped actual lives. The doctor says the DNA test shows a 99% match with Hannah Song. Basically, unless there's a secret twin, she's the real deal. The dad doesn't even hesitate. He hugs Hannah like he's been waiting his whole life. Calls her his real daughter, and just like that, it's official. Meanwhile, our girl stands there like someone just unplugged her from her own story. Since that day, nothing's been the same. The dad starts treating her like a guest who overstayed their welcome, politely asking her to hand over her room, her clothes, and maybe even her toothbrush, all for Hannah. Her world flips like a table in a drama, and she's stuck wondering how she went from favorite child to background character. At a restaurant, our girl sits across from a guy on a date, trying her best to keep the conversation alive. She asks what he usually does on weekends. He says he rests, like he's been carrying the world on his back. She asks if he has any hobbies, and he throws out golf, as if that's supposed to impress anyone who doesn't own a yacht. Silence creeps in like a third wheel, and she starts thinking to herself that he hasn't even bothered to ask about her hobbies. Not even a fake, "What about you?" This man clearly isn't planning a second date, unless it's with his golf club. She sighs, already mentally checking out of the meal. This is her 4th blind date in just 1 month. But honestly, it might as well be the same guy with a different hairstyle. They all act the same, polite at first, then distant, like someone warned them in advance. Deep down, Juha knows why. She just doesn't like admitting it. The guy suddenly calls her by name, sits up a little straighter, and says he'll be honest, since neither of them wants to waste time. Translation, here comes the bad news. He says he's not interested in this marriage setup. Sure, her dad is the president of K Hotel, but he thinks the company's going downhill fast. And worst of all, he points out she's not even the president's biological daughter. Juha just sits there, trying not to roll her eyes into next week. Juha knows exactly why these dates keep going cold. In the world of business-class matchmaking, she's labeled damaged goods, swapped at birth, no blood ties, and now the daughter of a company that's apparently circling the drain. The guy starts bringing up K Hotel's financial struggles, but she cuts him off before he can finish. She calls him out for being rude, and casually drops a little info of her own. From what she's heard, he's not exactly the crown jewel of his family either. Word on the street is, he took the college entrance exam 4 times and still couldn't crack a top school. So now his sisters are the ones running the show, while he's out here judging others over salad. Juha thinks to herself that this guy's a mama's boy barely hanging on to his job because his mother's pulling strings behind the scenes. Yet, he has the nerve to talk down to her like he's some prize. So she decides she won't hold back either. She tells him straight up, no need to sugarcoat it. He's not her type, especially in the looks department. That hits him right where it hurts. He immediately gets defensive, asking what's wrong with his face, but she just smiles like she's doing him a favor, and says she'll even pay for dinner. Then she stands up, smooth as ever, and tells him something he clearly didn't know. When a woman's actually interested, she lets the guy pay. So she has a reason to treat him next time. She walks off without looking back, and he's left at the table, seething and probably Googling comebacks for attractive women. Juha gets home and announces her return like usual, but her dad's in the living room pretending she's invisible again, eyes glued to his papers like it's more interesting than his own daughter. Hannah pops out with her usual smile, asking if it was another exhausting matchmaking mission, and Juha says yeah. Just another guy with a mom complex and too much cologne. Hannah says she's making tea and offers to pour her a cup, but Juha says she's already had enough tea to float away. Hannah insists anyway, and in her dramatic rush to be helpful, she bumps her leg into the table, sending hot tea spilling all over Juha. Juha stares at her like, really? Didn't I just say I was fine? Hannah whimpers out an apology, trying to look as pitiful as possible. Their grandma shouts from the other room, clearly over the noise, asking what the drama is this time, and saying this house is turning into a full-blown circus. Grandma doesn't miss a beat and starts scolding Juha, saying she should hurry up and get married already if she really wants to help her father's business instead of strutting around like she owns the place. After everything they did to raise her, this is how she repays them? The dad finally chimes in, clearly at his limit, and snaps at his mother to stop. He says the company is already giving him enough stress. Can't she try to keep things calm at home for once? The mom steps in with her usual nervous smile, apologizing and saying Juha's just been causing a bit of a fuss lately. Then the dad turns to Juha and says Hannah was only trying to be nice. Did she really have to act like the girl committed a crime? Right on cue, Hannah starts crying, saying it's not Juha's fault and that she was the one who overstepped, practically sniffling her way into another round of sympathy. Juha stands there feeling quietly crushed, thinking to herself that she never meant to make Hannah feel unwelcome. No one even tries to hear her side, even though she's the one standing there soaked in tea and holding back tears. She tells them not to worry, says the thorn in their side will be gone soon enough. These blind dates, they're not for her. She's doing them to pay back the family that raised her, even if they now treat her like a guest who overstayed her welcome. But deep down, she knows the truth. She's not trying to leave for their sake. She's the one who actually wants out of this house more than anyone. On yet another day, in yet another restaurant, Juha sits there, thinking how getting rejected over and over really doesn't get easier. This is date number 5, and she's already bracing for impact. She glances at the profile and blinks. Baeka Group? That's one of the top 10 companies in the country. There's no way someone from a place like that would be set up with her. Something's off. And right then, a man walks in and asks if she's Juha Song. He introduces himself as Sahyeon Baek, and she greets him politely while panicking a little inside. What is a guy like that doing here with her? It makes no sense. He must have been forced into this by his family or something. Either way, she figures he'll find some classy, polite way to reject her by the end of the meal. Sahyeon asks her when a good date would be, and Juha is totally confused, wondering if he's talking about a normal dinner date or something else. He quickly clarifies, saying he means for their wedding, and Juha's brain short-circuits for a moment. She tells him to excuse her, clearly flustered, and admits she's completely lost. What on earth is going on here? Juha looks at him and asks if he actually wants to marry her. And Sahyeon casually says that's what the meeting's for, right? She says yes, but then hesitates, still trying to process what kind of alternate universe she's walked into. In her head, she's running through everything she knows. His name's Sahyeon Baek, youngest son of Baeka Group, a top 10 company. Most of the big positions went to his older brother, so he doesn't have any flashy titles yet. But recently he took over a new executive role and launched a hotel chain called Baeka Stay. Still, why would someone like that want to marry her? Is it some kind of secret? Maybe he's gay and needs a cover. She snaps herself out of it, deciding she needs to stay sharp and figure out what angle he's playing. For now, she'll stick to safe topics, like the weather or how the coffee tastes, if she keeps the small talk going long enough. He's bound to get bored and accidentally let something slip. Juha starts throwing out random questions, safe ones, the kind that usually bore guys into showing their real personality. But to her surprise, Sahyeon answers each one without complaining, just short and to the point, like he's in an interview. She figures he's clearly not interested and just wants to get this over with. Then, out of nowhere, he flips the script and asks if she has any hobbies. She freezes. Stunned, it's the first time anyone on these dates has ever asked her anything about herself. Before she can recover, he calmly brings up his earlier question again, about their wedding date, and says he's still waiting for her answer. Her eyes widen as it finally hits her. He wasn't joking. She just assumed he was messing with her, but this guy might actually be serious. Juha asks if he even knows about her situation. And Sahyeon calmly says he only knows the basics, that the real biological daughter came back, and now Juha's being treated like background noise. She looks at him and asks if he's sure he won't regret it, and without missing a beat, he says not even a little. Then, like they're planning a lunch date, he brings up the wedding again, saying the year's almost over, so pulling it off soon would be tricky. Plus, they should at least get to know each other a bit. Juha thinks to herself, is he really trying to rush into marriage that fast? Before she can wrap her head around it, he suggests spring. She blinks, realizing that only gives them 4 months, and suddenly this whole thing feels way too real. Juha starts wondering what his deal is. Why is he in such a hurry? Is there something off about him? Could he be a con artist? But then again, no scammer would go around pretending to be from Baekga Group of all places. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Still, if she has to marry someone eventually, she might as well go with the one who at least makes it weirdly interesting. So she tells him all right, but asks if she can ask something first. He nods, and she asks why he chose her. He says it's because she seems special. Juha raises an eyebrow. They've known each other for all of 1 hour. But he just laughs and says maybe so, but she is to him. She stares at him, thinking to herself that he really is a strange one. Later that day, after the meal, Sahyeon casually asks if she has a pen on her, so they can seal the deal before she has second thoughts. Juha blinks. Who carries a pen to a blind date? She tells him she doesn't, and he shrugs, saying in that case a handshake will do. If she shakes his hand, that means she's in. She stares at him for a moment, wondering how this even turned into a proposal negotiation, but then slowly reaches out and shakes his hand. Fine, she says. Let's get married. Inside Sahyeon's car, the driver asks how dinner went, and Sahyeon casually says they didn't eat, so he'll just have dinner at home. But when the driver turns to respond, we suddenly see things from Sahyeon's point of view. The driver's face appears like a blurred-out mask, featureless and unreadable. Prosopagnosia, better known as face blindness. It's a condition that makes it hard, sometimes impossible, for someone to recognize faces, even those they see every day. And this is Sahyeon's secret. He wasn't just being mysterious for fun. He developed the disorder after something that happened when he was a child, something he's never really talked about. The driver asks how the blind date went, and Sahyeon says he's planning to move forward with the marriage as quickly as possible. The driver, clearly surprised, asks what it was about her that made him fall for her. Sahyeon simply says she's special. Inside, he thinks he can't explain it. But in a world full of faces he can't recognize, hers was the only one that stood out like it was drawn in bold lines. For someone like him, that makes her not just special, she's one in a million. In Juha's room, she mutters to herself that she agreed to marry him. But now what? How does someone even start planning a wedding? What's step 1? Buy a dress? Hire a planner? Google it? She said yes so confidently, but now she's wondering why he even asked. Was it love at first sight, or just business in a suit? She quickly shakes the thought away. This is a marriage of convenience, nothing more. Time to get her head straight. Just then, her father walks in and says he heard about the engagement. So it's settled? He tells her if they're going to meet Baekga Group's standards, they'll have to step up their game. He'll have the secretary start making the arrangements. Because nothing says romance like a scheduled strategy meeting. Juha quietly squeezes her hand and asks her father what he really thinks about the marriage. He says if the investment goes through, it'll give K Hotel some much-needed breathing room. It's for the best. He adds a quick sorry for making her go through something like this and tells her to get some rest. But that's not what Juha meant at all. Inside, she's thinking, what about Sahyeon? Does he like him? Does he think he'll make her happy? Those were the kinds of things she hoped he'd care about. But maybe he doesn't, because she's not his biological daughter. She walks to the door, ready to say something, but stops when she sees him already talking to Hannah. Hannah tells her father she feels awful, like Juha's being handed off in her place, just to lock down an investment. And even if it helps the company, it doesn't sit right with her. She says she should be the one doing it. But the father immediately snaps, absolutely not. He says she spent over 20 years without knowing what it feels like to be loved because of her foolish parents. And does she have any idea how much that hurts him? At the very least, her husband should be someone she loves, and someone who truly loves her back. Just then, they both spot Juha standing by the door. She says she just forgot to say goodnight, says it with a smile, then walks off and slams her door hard enough to shake the hallway. Days later, Juha goes to see Sahyeon. She tells herself not to get her hopes up. After all, he's from the business world too, so he probably sees this the same way, just a business deal between two families. Romance? That's not even on the table, but then she walks in and catches sight of him tying a towel around his waist, his chest exposed. She thinks to herself, isn't this straight out of a romance novel? Sahyeon catches her staring and asks what that was about, and Juha immediately slams the door shut like she just walked into a crime scene. She tries to flee, but he steps out, towel still holding on for dear life, and asks why she's pretending like she didn't just see everything, because she definitely did. She stammers an apology, says she came early since there was no traffic, though she's not sure if that makes her lucky or cursed. He casually says, let's go with lucky, tells her not to feel bad about it. She was going to see it eventually, so think of it as a preview. That makes her flinch like she just got hit with a plot twist, and she quickly says, well, that's actually what she came to talk about. Juha pulls out a document like it's a business pitch and says she'd like them to make a simple agreement before the wedding. A little manual for a happy marriage, nothing too wild. They sit down and Sahyeon actually reads it like he's reviewing a contract, not pretending to skim. Baeka Stay, his new hotel and resort venture under Baeka Group, is still in its baby steps, and even though he's listed as an executive director, it's mostly a title with flair. That's probably why he suggested marriage to create a connection with K Hotel, known for its traditional Korean architecture. And since K Hotel's been struggling financially, this arrangement is starting to look like a win-win on paper. It's business, fancy packaging, but still business. This marriage is just another piece of the bigger business puzzle, so naturally, Juha figures it's only smart to get everything down in writing. But she starts getting a little impatient. Why is he taking so long to read it? It's not like she scribbled it in doctor handwriting. Right as she's about to ask, he says he's finished and starts summarizing like he's presenting a boardroom report. First, mutual respect for each other's careers. Second, no cheating. Public scandals are bad for business. He nods, says that one's obvious. Third, they act like the perfect couple in front of others, smiles and all. Fourth, separate rooms until both agree to change that setup. Fifth, anything involving kids has to be a mutual decision. Sixth, and she underlined this, intimacy is strictly by consent. Juha tells him she's just listed what she thinks would make things go smoothly, and if he has anything he wants to add, he's more than welcome. But Sahyeon leans back, gives her a look, and asks if she really sees this marriage as nothing more than a performance. She says, well, yeah, it is strategic, isn't it? Business in the front, silence in the back. But he shakes his head, says just because they didn't meet like a typical couple doesn't mean they have to keep pretending once they're married. That throws her off. Is he saying he wants them to act like a real couple? He tells her to drop the word act. He wants them to be one. Juha laughs and tells him to stop joking, but Sahyeon stays completely serious. She stares at him, wondering if he really expects her to pour her heart into this just because he says so. Is he messing with her? Or is this just how sheltered rich boys think romance works, like flipping a switch? She tells him it's a bit much to expect anything real from a marriage built on 5 conversations and some paperwork. If he wanted something genuine, maybe he should have tried actual dating first. But Sahyeon just shrugs and says, aren't they doing that now, for the next 4 months? She wonders to herself, is that why he pushed for a spring wedding? So they could squeeze in some dating beforehand? For even as they do, what kind of emotional trust can come from a deal like this? She tells him that mutual respect is enough for her. Love doesn't just happen because someone declares it. When he pouts, she stares at him confused. What's with that face? Did he really believe that just saying, let's be a couple, would automatically flip the love switch and make everything perfect? She asks if he's ever been in a relationship before. And he says, of course, but the hesitation in his voice and the awkward twitch in his expression say otherwise. It's all over his face. He's either lying or hasn't figured out how to bluff yet. Maybe he's more naive than she gave him credit for. Still, she tells him if that's what he really wants, she'll try too. She wants to be happy as well. Then, as a bonus, she pulls out a stack of papers and asks him to fill them out. He looks like he just got handed exam results he never sat for. It's the Bake Compatibility Compass, a 100-question personality questionnaire. Since they barely know each other, she figured it'd be helpful to sort things out on paper like responsible business partners or confused newlyweds. She says they should start their marriage by actually getting to know each other, like civilized strangers with a legally binding deadline. Later that night at Sahyeon's apartment, He relaxes with his parrot perched on his hand like a tiny, judgmental roommate. He asks how her day was, and she squawks back something cheerful. He tells her he had a good one. He met someone worth introducing. The parrot asks if he's happy, and he says yes, genuinely, with a soft smile, like he just remembered something warm. That peaceful moment lasts about 3 seconds before two voices come crashing through the door singing off-key. It's his brothers, Ilhyun, the second oldest, and Samhyun, the third. They barge in like human hurricanes, bringing chaos and sibling energy with them. Sahyeon sighs and tells them between the two of them, they've got 4 perfectly working hands, and not a single one thought to knock. What do they want? Turns out they've come for the family brooches. Since Sahyeon can't recognize faces, the Baek family wears color-coded pins during official events, so he knows who's who. Basically a human name tag system in jewel form. One of the brothers says they also came to hear how things went with his future wife. Their eyes land on the compatibility questionnaire on the table and immediately light up like kids spotting candy. Sahyeon blinks. How do they always read his mind without him saying anything? Before he can even react, they snatch the papers and start running around the apartment, making ridiculous comments, waving it in the air like it's top-secret intel. Sahyeon chases after them, regretting every sibling bond he ever cherished. His brothers start teasing him, saying it's no use. He and Juha probably don't have anything in common anyway. But Sahyeon tells them to check the last page, the one that matters most. Her favorite animal? The green-winged macaw. Backed into a corner by romance trivia, checkmate. Meanwhile, days later, Juha starts her morning behind the wheel, her little green-winged macaw keychain dangling like a cheerful mascot. She tells herself it's time to get the day going. K-Hotel is more than just a fancy building, it's a legacy. Her father built it from scratch, starting with nothing but a small restaurant and a lot of grit. After he brought her into his life, things took off faster than anyone expected. Now, standing tall with traditional Korean architecture, the hotel is a symbol of everything he worked for. Juha applied through open recruitment instead of joining the family business. She knew how much K-Hotel meant to her father and wanted to avoid any drama. As she walks into the building, she's caught off guard when she sees Hannah introducing herself. "I'm joining the K-Hotel public relations team today," Hannah says with a bright smile. Juha stops in her tracks, shocked. What is Hannah doing here? People around the office start whispering about Hannah, saying she's the president's real daughter. It explains a lot. She actually looks like him. And Juha doesn't. Plus, Hannah's got that soft, elegant vibe that makes her seem like she came straight out of a chaebol drama. Everyone's quietly agreeing, if there's someone to impress now, it's Hannah. Later that morning, Juha offers her a coffee, trying to be polite, but Hannah gently declines. She says she's sensitive to caffeine and only drinks herbal tea at home. Didn't Juha know that? She says she should have asked first. She wasn't thinking. Hannah just smiles and says she still appreciates the gesture. Juha asks if Hannah's officially starting work today. She's surprised. She hadn't heard a word from their dad. Hannah says everything happened quickly. She admits her background isn't impressive. She used to work at barbecue joints and convenience stores, nothing fancy. She figures that must have disappointed their father. Juha, watching her, thinks to herself that it probably did. Finding his real daughter only to learn she's been earning minimum wage jobs must have been a shock. Still, it would have been nice if he'd at least mentioned it to her first. A little heads up never hurt anybody. Juha tells herself not to feel disappointed. She's been living a life that was never meant to be hers. Hannah's just reclaiming what was always supposed to belong to her. She has no right to feel upset over something so small. She tells Hannah she'll head back now, and if there's anything she's unsure about, she can ask any time. She is her supervisor after all. Hannah thanks her sweetly. The moment Juha walks off, Hannah picks up the coffee she said she couldn't drink, takes a sip, and grins like she's just pulled off something clever. In her office, Juha reads through Hannah's report and can't help thinking she offered to help, but this is worse than she expected. Hannah doesn't even know the basics. The whole thing's a mess, sentence structure included. Hannah then asks how to print, and Juha starts walking her through it step by step, trying not to sigh out loud. She thinks to herself that, at this rate, Hannah wouldn't survive as an intern, let alone on the PR team. If anyone sees this, they'll assume the only thing that got her here was her last name. Later on, the team leader calls Juha over and points out a typo in a customer's phone number. Turns out she contacted the wrong person entirely. He snaps, demanding how she plans to fix it, and she quickly says she'll reach out and apologize directly. Inside, she's fuming. Hannah's the one messing up basic data entry, but as the supervisor, she's the one taking the fall. The team leader never liked her to begin with, and now with Hannah around, he's not even pretending anymore. It's probably not just because Hannah's around. The team leader most likely knows Juha's not the president's biological daughter. Later that day, while she tries to clean up the mess, Sahyeon calls. He knows she's almost off work and tells her he's downstairs in K Hotel's parking lot. Turns out he's finished the bake compatibility compass. She heads down and he hands her the fic packet, saying he went over the song compatibility compass she gave him multiple times and filled his out just as carefully. She tells him he could have just sent photos instead of waiting in his car with the headlights blazing. He says he's afraid of the dark and his phone camera's broken. Of course it is. She accuses him of lying, and he insists he's not. The big boss at home pecked the lens. By big boss, he means his parrot. A green-winged macaw, no less. That grabs her full attention. He says he wanted to send her a photo since she likes them, but thanks to the bird's beak, the camera's out of commission. She lights up and says she'd love to see it someday. When she was a kid, a friend came back from the zoo with a stuffed parrot and she was so jealous. She borrowed it permanently once they got bored. Ever since then, she's always wanted a real one. After leaving the orphanage, that dream stuck. But now it's off the table because her grandma's strictly team no pets. He thinks to himself that watching her face light up like that is kind of unfair. How is it that a parrot gets a better reaction than his marriage proposal? Did he really just lose to a bird? He asks if she really wants to see it that badly, and when she says yes, he slips in a sly question. Does she miss him too? She starts to say of course she does, but before she can finish, he leans in close like he's about to kiss her and casually says he missed her. Her mouth drops open, like her brain just short-circuited. Meanwhile, Hannah walks by, casually glances over, and then freezes when she realizes it's Sahyeon in the car. Sahyeon leans in, about to kiss her, but Juha smacks her hand over his face like a living pause button and reminds him of Clause 6, consent only. He backs off, hands up like a polite criminal, and says of course he agrees. However, he suggests they consider certain exceptional scenarios, say, for example, some nosy paparazzi starts tailing them. Baekga Group's already taken one hit thanks to a messy rumor about a cold married couple who wouldn't even high-five in public. One gloomy article later, and the company's stock took a nosedive like it tripped on the sidewalk of public opinion. Juha realizes he's referring to Il-hyun Baek, the oldest Baek son, and his famously distant wife. She's read the article before. Sahyeon says if he needs verbal consent for every small gesture, they might end up starring in the sequel. She admits he has a point, and he lights up like he just got promoted. She says she's okay with hand-holding anytime, no formal request required. And he asks about hugs. She nods, that's fine too. Then he leans in, all innocent mischief, and asks about kisses. Her heart decides it wants to be a drum, pounding like it's auditioning for a concert. She tells him she needs to think it over, and he's all calm about it, saying she can take as much time as she needs. Juha feels her heart beating so loudly she's pretty sure he can hear it from across the car. She's finally starting to get what he meant about being a real couple. Then she suggests he set his own boundaries, asking where his comfort zone lies. He shrugs, saying anything. She raises an eyebrow, asking what that means, and he casually replies, whatever you're comfortable with. If it's you, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. That's my boundary. Juha's taken aback, not expecting him to be so open, her surprise showing clearly. Hannah walks up to the car and knocks on the window, asking if his name is Sahyeon. Both Juha and Sahyeon look at her, with Sahyeon squinting behind his mask, wondering who she is. Juha calls out her name, and Hannah is shocked to hear it. She quickly asks why she's here, and Juha gets out of the car, asking how she knows Sahyeon. Hannah smiles brightly, saying she knew he was Sahyeon all along. Then she goes in for a hug, asking if he doesn't remember her. Does Yelme Orphanage ring any bells? Her words leave both Sahyeon and Juha stunned, completely taken off guard. Hannah continues, saying they were really close back at the orphanage. Juha thinks inwardly, the same orphanage where Hannah and I grew up? Is she really saying Sahyeon was there too? Sahyeon, on the other hand, wonders, did Hannah actually meet me at the orphanage? He recalls a little kid who followed him around back then. Could it have been her? Was her name Hannah? It's starting to ring a bell, but it's a stretch. She must be an acquaintance of Juha's. Though this is getting a bit odd. He quickly realizes if he doesn't answer soon, Juha will probably think it's weird, so he smiles and says, yeah, I know her. He decides to just act like he remembers her, even if he's still not entirely sure. Hannah's face lights up, her eyes sparkling as she exclaims, oh, I'm so relieved. I thought maybe you didn't recognize me after all this time. She looks almost too happy, like a weight has been lifted off her shoulders. And it leads Juha raising an eyebrow. Sahyeon can't help but feel a little puzzled by the situation, but for now, he decides to go along with it. Hannah says she misses him so much, reminiscing that the last time they saw each other, she was 12. Didn't he ever wonder about her? She thought about him every day. He was her first love, but no matter how hard she tried, she could never find his contact information. Sahyeon nods and quickly pushes her away, trying to steer the conversation in another direction. He casually says, since you're working at the same place as my sweetheart, I'm guessing you two are co-workers. Hannah freezes for a moment, then looks at him with wide eyes, asking, what do you mean by your sweetheart? Are you dating Juha? She chuckles almost too loudly and adds, you shouldn't lie, you know. Juha went on a blind date, and didn't she even set a wedding date? Sahyeon feels a bit cornered by her unexpected comments, but he keeps his cool. He's not entirely sure what's going on. But he definitely didn't expect this conversation to take this turn. Sahyeon takes Juha's hand and says, that would be with me. I'm the one who proposed to her. Hannah is shocked, her eyes wide as she stumbles over her words. I can't believe it, she says, clearly caught off guard. Hannah storms off, corely angry, as Juha calls after her with no response. Sahyeon looks at Juha, raising an eyebrow, wondering if they're more than just colleagues. Juha explains that Hannah is her adopted sister, though technically she's the adopted one, and Hannah is her father's biological daughter. Sahyeon is taken aback. Later, as Sahyeon drives Juha, he mentions reading the song Compatibility Compass several times, but never realizing the connection. Juha admits she didn't know they knew each other either, mentioning it was a long time ago. She says she only remembers a little from her time at the orphanage. Inwardly, she wonders why the thought of Hannah having someone she liked makes her feel so nauseated. Sahyeon asks if she's hungry, mentioning he booked a table at a nice place for dinner. Her stomach growls and they both laugh. He says they should get her there as quickly as possible. They arrive at the restaurant and she's in awe, thinking to herself that you probably can't get in without a reservation. As they sit down, Sahyeon asks if he's not mistaken. She wrote in the compass that her favorite food is pork belly. He asks if she prefers to order herself or if she wants someone to order for her. She tells him he'll have someone order for her, and he grins, feeling confident. He orders 3 servings of dry-aged pork belly, some extra mushrooms and vegetables, and since he's driving, they'll stick to soda instead of alcohol. He also orders a bowl of rice for each of them, the beef brisket doenjang stew, and another serving of kimchi for grilling. Juha thinks to herself that he's good. She remembers the guy from her second blind date who flaunted his wealth and upbringing, which really got on her nerves. But this man, despite his prominent family, is surprisingly down to earth and knows how to appreciate a good meal. After all, you can't have pork belly without grilled kimchi. As he grills the kimchi, it starts to look like it's about to burn, and she asks him to pass her the tongs, offering to grill the meat instead. He asks if he seems awkward, admitting that they usually grill the meat for them here, but he wanted to try it himself. So he watched some videos and practiced. She tells him to let her do it, mentioning that she's the designated griller at the company's dinners. As she starts grilling, he's amazed, saying she's really good at it, much more skilled than he'd expect from someone from a wealthy family. She laughs and says she gets that a lot, with people often saying she's surprisingly thoughtful. She even brews coffee and changes the water jug in the dispenser. He's impressed to hear that. She says she didn't want her father to regret adopting her, so she went on so many blind dates when the family business started to struggle. When Hannah came, she felt like she had to do even better. He asks what her father said when he found out she wasn't his biological daughter. She replies honestly, not much. He's never been one for many words, especially after their mom passed. Grandma being hard on her was nothing new. She's sure there were things he wanted to say, but he's trying in his own way, and she understands that. After all, she did take things that Hannah should have had. He says she shouldn't see it that way, it's not her fault. Then he feeds her and adds that he knows she went on those blind dates because she felt pressured for her sister's sake. But thanks to that, he got to meet her, and he's grateful for that. She laughs and asks, exactly what is it about her that he likes? He says it's her looks. He fell for her beauty. She's shocked, thinking inwardly, well, way to kill the mood. Juha gulps down her drink in one go and Sahyeon watches, saying she just downed soda like it's beer. She glares at him while trying to chew through a lettuce wrap, so full her cheeks nearly pop. He points out she's got rice stuck to her face, then adds, she has no idea what it means to him to be able to call her beautiful. She freezes, thinking she doesn't get it. He's saying something completely ridiculous, but he looks way too serious for it to be a joke. She tells him he's got a unique way of phrasing things, and he asks if she would have still agreed to marry him if he hadn't shown up on that blind date. She says she'll be honest if he promises not to get hurt, and he immediately says he can't make that promise, his face already looking like a kicked puppy. She sighs. Then says she's glad it's him she's marrying. He lights up and asks why, and she thinks to herself, was that sad face just an act? How sneaky. She tells him she likes his looks too, and he blinks, caught off guard, wondering inwardly if he's really that handsome. He honestly has no clue what he even looks like. She teases him, asking if he truly doesn't know or if he's just fishing for compliments. She says he resembles Chairman Back. And everyone knows that man's practically a celebrity for his looks. He tilts his head, asking if that's so. He's got the same eyes, nose, and mouth as everyone else. She laughs, saying he's being way too humble, because if everyone had his eyes, nose, and mouth, beauty pageants would be cancelled. She thinks to herself that he's such a strange one. He keeps calling her beautiful like it's obvious, but the moment his own looks come up, he acts like someone just asked him to solve a math problem. It's like he genuinely doesn't know what he looks like. Then she brings up Chairman Back, mentioning she heard he's been unwell. Sahyeon explains the chairman's been bedridden for years, and though they've tried to keep it quiet, he's actually in a coma. That catches her off guard and she apologizes, but he brushes it off, saying they weren't exactly close. She'll see soon enough. His family's got more drama than a weekend soap marathon. She teases him for bringing up family drama right in front of her and laughs it off, saying it doesn't scare her one bit. He tells her smile's way too bright for this kind of dim lighting. She thinks to herself it's odd. After a day that chewed her up and spit her out, just sitting here with Sahyeon somehow makes it all feel light. She tells him she'll treat him to dinner tomorrow. Says she knows a hidden spot with food so good it should be illegal. The next day, Juha pulls up looking all dressed for the occasion and tells Sahyeon to hop in. He gets in and watches her drive, thinking she handles the wheel like a pro. It's kind of impressive. She says they had meat yesterday, so today's a seafood day. How about stir-fried octopus? He nods, saying it sounds good, and in his head, he's quietly impressed again. Not only can she drive like a getaway driver, she's also got a sixth sense for picking the best thing on the menu. As they drive along, still chatting about how good the meal was, they spot a crowd up ahead. There's an ambulance and a car awkwardly parked on the left side, causing a bit of chaos. Juha frowns, saying that parking like that is a hazard, and Sahyeon squints, noting there's some kind of argument going on. Maybe a minor fender bender. Then they hear a woman's voice rising over the noise, begging the other driver to let them go. Photos have been taken, and her kid needs to get to the hospital immediately. The man yells that he can't just let them leave. He's heard that line too many times. People promise to call and vanish into thin air. He demands they wait for the insurance rep. The ambulance driver tries to reason with him, swearing they'll take full responsibility. But the kid in the back is in bad shape. The man doesn't budge, shouting that if it were that serious, they'd be running with the kid on their back by now. Juha mutters an insult under her breath, apologizes to Sahyeon, and tells him to buckle up. Before he can ask what she's up to, she hits the gas and zips forward, wedging her car between the ambulance and the parked one, ready to stir up some justice with horsepower. Juha ran straight into the selfish man's car and casually says, "It looks like she's the one at fault now." The guy explodes, demanding to know who she thinks she is, but she shrugs it off. Bumper damage is bumper damage, and now it's between just the two of them. Sahyeon stares in disbelief, like he just witnessed a superhero origin story. The man yells, asking if she hit his car on purpose, and Juha calmly replies that her intentions aren't the issue here. It's about whether or not he gets compensated. The man fumes, saying she's meddling in something that's not her business. But she turns her back on him and doesn't respond, which only makes him shout louder, like a broken megaphone. Juha reaches out to the woman on the ground, apologizes for scaring her, and helps her up, saying she should hurry and get her child to the hospital. The woman thanks her and rushes off with the ambulance, while Juha smiles, the angry man still frozen, like his brains buffering. As the man starts to snap out of it and open his mouth to hurl an insult, Sahyeon steps in, gently grabbing him by the collar, and calmly says yelling in the middle of the road isn't a good look. Juha glances over and checks if Sahyeon's hurt, and he assures her it's nothing serious, just a little bumper kiss between cars. She admits she lost her cool when she saw how unreasonable the man was, especially with a sick kid involved, and thinks she should have stayed calm. He tells her it was an emergency, and she did the right thing. The man finally breaks free from Sahyeon's grip, grumbling about what's wrong with them, and asking how she plans to fix this, since insurance won't cover it now. She tells him to call the police, reminding him he nearly endangered a child, and that she has nothing to lose. Sahyeon tells her to hold on, then tells the man to come with him. Sahyeon talks to the man for a bit, then the guy gets in his car, apologizes for causing a scene, says goodnight, and speeds off. Juha asks what he said, and Sahyeon says he mentioned compensation and showed his business card. Suddenly, the man backed down like someone spotted a lawyer. Juha jokes maybe she should have flashed a card from the start, but Sahyeon laughs and says no. Fighting a power trip with power trip is the easy way out, not the right one. What she did was way more impressive enough to make him want to ask her to get rid of Clause 6, Section 2 of their agreement. She smiles nervously, saying they just updated that rule. He says it's not enough. On a day like today, it's frustrating not being able to do more. She blushes. He suggests renegotiating. She asks if that's basically blackmail, helping her out just to ask for more. He grins and says, then she should give him a free pass for when it might happen by accident. A special Clause 6, Section 2. She laughs, saying that sounds suspiciously intentional. He says he just likes to be prepared. She never knows what could happen. She tells him he only gets one chance and has to say Clause 6, Section 2 before using it, so there's no confusion. He laughs, saying it's fun, feels like a game. Later that night, in Sahyeon's department, he chats with his parrot, asking how his day went. The parrot asks if he's happy today, and Sahyeon smiles, saying he is. He steps out onto the balcony just as his brother Ilhyun shows up, surprising him with how late it is. Ilhyun says he needed to talk. He met President Song from K Hotel that evening, and the message is clear. He wants the wedding called off. Meanwhile, back at Juha's house, her father delivers the same crushing news. He's calling off the wedding, leaving Juha stunned and wondering what's next. Ilhyun tells Sahyeon not to take it personally. He's just the messenger. President Song brought it up during dinner. When Sahyeon asks what exactly was said, Ilhyun says the man wasn't subtle. He brought up his real daughter and suggested setting her up with Sahyeon instead, said it would look better for both families, avoid complications, keep the public image neat and tidy, no drama, no questions. Sahyeon doesn't say anything at first, but in his head, it clicks. He remembers the girl from the parking lot, Hannah, the one who looked him up and down like she already knew who he was. It has to be her. There's no way this came from Juha. That's not her style. This is Hannah's move, and he knows it. Sahyeon tells his brother plainly that he's not breaking off the engagement. Ilhyun raises a brow, says he's overreacting. They haven't even had the official meetings yet. No party, nothing set in stone. Sahyeon doesn't budge. He says it doesn't matter what order things happen in. He's made his decision. He's marrying Juha, and he doesn't need anyone's permission. Ilhyun stares at him, clearly not buying it. He says it's strange. He knows his little brother, and this, falling this fast, getting this serious over a few dates, it's not like him. He asks what's really behind it, because something definitely is. Sahyeon finally tells him the truth. He can see Juha's face, only hers. That stops Ilhyun cold. He's stunned, realizes that's the reason. Sahyeon says now that he knows, he should fix what's been messed up, but Ilhyun doesn't look hopeful. He reminds him it wasn't his call to begin with. It was President Song's request. The man's just reunited with his biological daughter after years, and he's clearly attached. Saying no won't be easy. The cleanest option would be canceling both matches altogether. Besides, Ilhyun still thinks marrying the real daughter is the smarter move for their family. His stance hasn't changed. He never liked the original setup, so maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Ilhyun tells him maybe it's time he started making decisions that actually benefit Becca instead of chasing emotions. He says the company needs someone who can think long-term, not someone getting swept up by a few dates. Sahyeon doesn't flinch, asks if Ilhyun wants control that badly, even if it means using family members like they're disposable. Ilhyun shoots him a sharp look, tells him to be careful with his words. He reminds Sahyeon that he's the one who kept Becca stable when their father fell ill, when no one else stepped up. He says he's earned his place, whether they share the same mother or not. He's still the eldest son of the Beck family, and that means something. Sahyeon doesn't say anything back, just looks at him with a calm expression, though inside, his thoughts are anything but quiet. He knows exactly why their father ended up in a coma. And Ilhyun pretending to be the savior of the family doesn't erase that. Sahyeon tells him if that's really how he sees things, then fine, he'll handle it on his own. It's his marriage, his decision. He throws in a jab, asking if Ilhyun even remembered it was his wife's birthday yesterday. Says it's almost funny how the man running Becca can't even manage the people under his own roof. If he doesn't get what actually matters, what's the point of power? Ilhyun scoffs and says, using Sahyeon's own words, that it is his marriage, so maybe he should keep it that way and stay out of everyone else's business. The next day, Juha can't stop thinking about what her dad said the night before. He told her opinion didn't matter, and when she asked if it was Becca that wanted the switch or if Hannah begged him, he hit her with guilt instead. Said he hated to frame it that way, but didn't she feel even a little sorry for her sister? While Juha had a warm bed and regular meals. Hannah grew up in an orphanage where even pizza was a luxury. He said he's never done a thing for her all these years, so maybe just this once, Juha should let her have what she wants. She told him then that it wasn't like she stole Hannah's life on purpose. But now the words just won't stop circling in her head. Juha walks, lost in thought, thinking how ever since Hannah showed up, she's tried to stay out of the way. She gave up her room, even handed over her mom's keepsake. Everything Hannah wanted, she gave, so why does it still feel like she's the one doing something wrong? While she's stewing on that, she spots Hannah laughing with their dad like they've been close all along. Then Sahyeon appears out of nowhere and asks why she's been ignoring his calls. She stiffens and asks what he's doing here. They have no reason to see each other anymore. He tells her marriage isn't something you can just walk out on like a bad movie halfway through. But she pulls her hand away and tells him to let go. Her father's watching. Juha tells him he can't be serious about the marriage. All he knew were a few lines from her profile. Why get so worked up over someone he barely met on a blind date? She doesn't say it out loud, but the truth is, she didn't agree to marry Sahyeon because she was in love. She just hoped she might be eventually. Sahyeon asks if her father is still watching, and she says yes. He's glaring like he's about to burst a blood vessel. Sahyeon doesn't miss a beat. He blurts out, Clause 6, Section 2, and says her dad can't seriously expect him to treat a woman he's already kissed like a future sister-in-law. Then, without warning, he leans in and kisses her again, right there in front of everyone. If you're eager for the next chapter, drop a comment expressing your interest in a part 2. Don't forget to subscribe and ensure to hit the notification bell to stay updated. Until next time.